What comes to mind when you hear the word cloning thrown around? For some, it's the same as having a twin. For others, it may seem close enough to having a living copy machine. Well, it is not a copy machine for sure, but if you'd like to call it a highly advanced copy machine, then we really can't argue against that. Welcome back to our channel, all. Today, we'll be talking a bit about the process of cloning, how cloning animals work, and why there are so many bioethical issues revolving around this. First, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you'll be the first to be notified of our new videos. Now let's get started. Cloning may invoke an image of an army of identical cows or sheep churned out in a factory, but in reality, it's not just that. Cloning can be done for anything as small as a mosquito or as complicated as human beings. In fact, the process is also much more laborious than just some factory machine with wheels turning around. Let us begin by defining what cloning actually means. Cloning is a complicated process that lets one copy the exact physical and inherited traits of the animal you're trying to make a copy of. So, for example, if you decide to go with the process of cloning a rabbit with a big mole on its neck, the rabbit clones you make will also have the same big mole on their necks. Scientists came up with this at the Roslin Institute when they were successful at creating the first ever cloned animal, a sheep called Dolly. So how does the process of cloning work? You have definitely heard of cells, the building blocks of any living organism. We can take it another step further and assume that you have also heard of DNA. It carries all your physical characteristics and is found within the cells. What scientists can do during cloning is extract DNA from the cell of an adult animal of which they want to make a copy. In the next step, they focus on another animal of the same species. Let us come back to the example of a cow. Scientists then pick another cow and remove the genetic material from its egg cell and attempt to place the DNA they extracted here. There are many ways to do this. Sometimes they inject the DNA directly into the egg cell, and sometimes they use electrical current to do the very same. Either way, the DNA is placed inside the empty egg cell and is allowed to develop into an early-stage embryo right in the laboratory itself. When the time is right, the embryo is then placed inside the womb of an adult female, and the process of pregnancy continues in a natural manner. The result? We get to see a baby cow that is an exact copy of the original cow we extracted DNA from. So why would we go through this complex process just to give birth to an animal with the same traits? There are plenty of reasons. For one, scientists do not go through the entire process of cloning to make an exact copy of an animal. Sometimes they genetically modify the clone for various purposes. The same scientists who cloned Dolly the sheep have cloned other sheep that have been genetically modified to produce milk that contains a human protein essential for blood clotting. The hope is that someday this protein can be purified from the milk and given to humans whose blood does not clot properly. Cloned animals are an extremely important part of that research. Since they're genetically identical, they have the same reaction during drug and other testing trials, making it easier for scientists to evaluate their effects. The process of cloning animals has now been made legal, and the products from cloned animals have been tagged safe for consumption. This means researchers can now focus on altering the genetic makeup and producing cattle that, say, provide leaner meat or have higher milk production. But these products are not really widespread in the market, for reasons that we're going to talk about later in this video. Cloning has also played a great role in preserving and increasing the number of endangered species. According to scientists, we are now going through the 6th mass extinction, which has resulted in an uncountable number of species going extinct in a short period of time. In 2001, researchers managed to create the first clone of an endangered species, guar. Other endangered species that were cloned in the coming years were African wildcats and banteg. However, cloning doesn't mean that the animal will turn out looking identical. Yes, that is what one of the first statements about cloning says, but how a clone turns out in terms of appearance is not just dependent on its genetic makeup, but also on the environment. Sometimes there are many changes that happen randomly as well. such as when the first cat was cloned, it looked nothing like its parent. So when you hear people saying that cloning your pet might make them the same, remember that it's not. Moreover, an important thing to keep in mind is that clones may have similar physical attributes, but they're definitely not the same animal. It won't be the same as your pet, even though they may look exactly similar. The entire process of cloning is quite difficult. Not only that, it burns a hole in your pocket as well. Remember when we talked about how more products from cloned animals aren't really available in the market? Well, that's because the entire cost of producing a proper clone is very expensive. Also, most cloned animals fail to grow and develop. Dolly was the only clone to be born live among 277 other cloned embryos. Cloned animals also have a much shorter lifespan due to their genetic makeup and are extremely prone to adverse health effects. Most cloned animals end up having defects in vital organs such as the liver, brain, and heart. In fact, Dolly might have been a successful clone, but she died within 6 years. That's only half the average lifespan of a sheep. Despite all the advantages cloning offers, it has a fair share of drawbacks as well. And next, of course, comes the ethical questions. As most of you might know, human cloning is banned across the world. Cloning humans is indeed much more difficult than cloning other animals. It has a lot more intricacies and is susceptible to damage with the techniques we presently use. Reproductive cloning would present the potential of creating a human that is genetically identical to another person who has previously existed, or who still exists. However, cloning humans could help sterile couples to fulfill their dream of parenthood. By scientific principles, it can also help avoid passing a harmful gene that runs in the family without going through the entire headache of embryo selection. But there is conflict as well. Many people argue that cloning goes against long-standing religious and societal values about human dignity, possibly even intruding upon principles of individual freedom, identity, and autonomy. Like any other advancement in science, cloning has two sides. What do you think? Should scientists try to explore more in this field, or should they pay heed to ethical concerns and make the decisions accordingly? Let us know by sharing your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to click on the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting topics in the future. Take care.